all right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the cosmos, whatever this is finding you. Welcome to Kai Chi Alchemy. You can call me Katchi. This is a space of love, y'all. Welcome or welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a reading from The Ringing Cedars of Russia, Book 2. This is an ongoing series that we've been doing, so you may be, waiting for this one to come out. It's been a minute. I definitely felt like time. Feel free to give me any feedback in the comments, real time or after the fact, about the audio. Because I feel like y'all are a little bit further away from, the camera is a little further away from the table today. Every once in a while, I struggle with the projecting and the enunciating. I also have a little bit of tinny, I need some rugs in here. Some sheepskins. What do you think? But before we get started with that, and maybe pull some cards to see if there's any, messages in there for the collective finding this message today, whatever that is, wherever you are. I'm going to clear the energy a little bit with my singing bowl, so feel free to take out your earbuds or turn down your volume if you have any kind of sound sensitivities. All right. We have the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the heart chakra, the throat, and the crown lit today. Make of that what you will. And that's about the only confirmations that I have come through for this group today. We're going to be reading chapter 7, and this one's called Who's to Blame? Once when Anastasia was trying to explain something to me about lifestyles and faith, but couldn't find suitable, understandable words, which she no doubt very much wanted to find, and a curious incident took place. Anastasia quickly turned to face the ringing cedar, pressing the palms of her hands against its trunk, but then something inexplicable began happening to her. Lifting up her head and addressing either the cedar or someone way up high, all at once she started speaking passionately and with concentrated attention, in a combination of words and sounds. She was evidently trying to show or explain something or plead for something. From time to time, her monologue seemed to be infused with tones of persistent demanding. The resonant ring of the cedar increased in volume. Its ray became brighter and thicker, and then Anastasia demanded sharply, "Answer me! Answer! Explain! Give it to me! Give it to me!" she said, shaking her head and even stamping her bare feet. All at once, the pale glow of the ringing cedar's treetop became focused into a ray, and the ray suddenly broke off from the cedar, flew upwards, and dissolved into thin air. But at this point, another ray appeared, coming down to the cedar from above. It seemed to consist of a bluish mist or cloud. Hello. The needles of the cedar, pointing downward, were illuminated with similar misty rays, almost unnoticeable. And these rays pointed toward Anastasia, but didn't touch her. They seemed to disappear and dissolve in the air. And when she insistently stamped her feet and even slapped the ringing cedar's huge trunk with the palms of her hands, the glowing needles began stirring, and their rays joined to form a single ray of bluish mist. It aimed itself downward toward Anastasia, but didn't touch her. The ray dissolved in the air, literally dissolved, at about a meter away from Anastasia at first, then at just half that distance. I suddenly recalled with horror how Anastasia's parents had perished, very likely from just such a ray. Anastasia continued her stubborn pleading and demanding, much like a spoiled child insisting on some desired favor from its parents. Then suddenly, the ray made a dash for her, as it were, illuminating her whole body like a flashbulb. A cloud first formed around Anastasia and then began dissipating, ever so slowly. The ray from the cedar dissolved. The rays from the needles were extinguished. The cloud around Anastasia continued to dissipate. It was either entering into her or dissolving in space. Now radiant with a joyous smile, she turned and took a step in my direction. Then she stopped and began staring past me at something beyond. I turned around to see Anastasia's grandfather and great-grandfather coming into the glade. The tall, gray-bearded grandfather walked slowly. Great-grandfather walked slowly, just ahead of his son. He was leaning on a stick that looked something like a shepherd's staff. Upon reaching my position, he stopped and fixed his gaze on me, as though staring into empty space. I couldn't even tell whether he actually saw me or not. Great-grandfather stood silently for a moment. Then, after bowing ever so slightly, without uttering so much as a word of greeting, he headed over to Anastasia. Even though grandfather was a bit of a fuss budget, he was a very simple man. His whole demeanor pointed to a most kind and cheerful fellow. As he approached the spot where I was standing, he at once stopped and offered me a simple shake of his hand. He started to say something, but I can't recollect exactly what he said. For some reason, both of us felt our attention and concern suddenly draw to what was going on at the base of the cedar. Great-grandfather had stopped just a meter from Anastasia. They stood there for a while, silently staring at each other. Anastasia was standing before the bearded old man, her hands lowered to a vertical position, as though she were a schoolgirl or university applicant being confronted by a strict examiner. She looked like a child caught being naughty, and her anxiety was most evident. The tense silence which had come over the scene was broken by the deep, clear, velvety tones of great-grandfather's voice. He did not say hello to Anastasia, but proceeded at once to a stern questioning, every word slowly and distinctly pronounced. Who can make an appeal directly to him without going through the light and rhythm that have been bestowed upon us? Whereupon Anastasia responded without hesitation. Any man can make an appeal to him. From time immemorial, he himself has taken great pleasure in talking with man, and this is what he wills right now. Are all paths outlined by him in advance? Great-grandfather continued. Are there many earth dwellers capable of discerning them? Are you capable of seeing these paths? Yes, I have seen what has been outlined for mankind. I have seen how future events are dependent on the conscious awareness of those who are living today. Have his sons and their enlightened followers who have perceived his spirit done enough to bring enlightenment to those living in the flesh? They have done and are doing everything, not even taking thought for their own life. They have borne witness to the truth and are still bearing witness. Can one who has seen the truth have any doubt about his intellect, kindness, and magnificence of spirit? He has no equals. He is one. But he does wish to communicate. He wants people to understand and love him as he loves. In communicating with him, is it permissible to be insolent and demanding? He has given a particle of his spirit and mind to everyone living on earth. And if a small particle, his particle in man, does not agree with what is generally accepted, that means he, and I mean he, is not satisfied with everything as it has been outlined for the future. He is reflecting on it. Could one term his reflections insolence? Who is permitted to hasten the pace of his reflections? Only the one who gives permission. And just what are you asking for? I am asking how to give understanding to those who do not understand, how to inculcate feelings in those who do not feel. Has the lot of those who fail to perceive truth been determined? The lot of those who fail to perceive truth has been determined, but who is to blame for the lack of acceptance of truth? The one who does not accept the truth, or the one from whom he receives it? What? You mean you? Great-grandfather said in agitation, and then fell silent. He stood silently for a while, looking at Anastasia. Then, with the help of his staff-like cane, he got down on one knee and took Anastasia's hand, inclining his silvery gray head toward her. He kissed her hand and said, "Hello, Anastasia." Anastasia herself at once knelt down before her great-grandfather and exclaimed with excitement and surprise, "What do you mean, Grandpakins treating me like a child? I'm grown up now." Then she put her arms around his shoulders, snuggled her head against his beard-covered chest, and held still. I knew she was listening to his heartbeat. That was something she had loved ever since her childhood. The oldster continued kneeling, one hand resting on his cane, the other stroking Anastasia's golden hair. Grandfather got excited and rushed over to his father and granddaughter, who were both still kneeling. He began strutting around them, throwing up his arms in some bewilderment. Then all of a sudden, he too got down on his knees and embraced them both. Grandfather was the first to rise to his feet. He then helped his father up. Great-grandfather was still staring intently at Anastasia. Then he slowly turned around and started walking off. Grandfather, in the meantime, started muttering away, though it wasn't clear whether he was addressing anyone in particular. All the same, they're all spoiling her. Even he spoils her. Dear me, just look at where she's got to. She pokes her nose in wherever she feels like it. There's nobody to teach her a lesson. Who will help? Who will now help the Dachniks? Who, I say? Great-grandfather stopped in his tracks. He slowly turned around and said distinctly, in his deep, velvety voice, "Granddaughter dear, follow the dictates of your heart and soul. I myself shall help you with the Dachniks." Turning away once again, the majestic gray beard started on his way out of the glade. Do you see what I mean? They're all spoiling her, grandfather broke in again. Picking up a short switch, he strutted over to Anastasia. Waving the switch about his head, he threatened, "I'm going to teach her a lesson right now." Oh, Anastasia threw up her hands in feigned fright. Then she gave a laugh and ran off, trying to elude her pursuing grandfather. "So, she's even taken it into her head to run away from me. As if I couldn't catch up," he muttered under his breath. With unaccustomed ease and speed, he intensified his pursuit. Anastasia ran laughing, weaving her way across the glade, and while grandfather did not relax his pace, he was still unable to catch up to her. Suddenly, grandfather gasped and sat down, grasping his leg. Anastasia quickly turned about, her face full of concern. She ran over to her grandfather and held out her hands to him, and all at once she stopped. Her infectious peals of laughter filled the glade. I paid particular attention to her grandfather's pose and realized the source of her mirth. Grandfather was squatting down on one leg, holding his other leg out in front, not touching the ground. And here he was, stroking the very leg he was squatting on, as though it had been injured. He had outsmarted Anastasia, but she was not deceived. As it turned out later, she was supposed to have noticed right off the comic discrepancy in his pose. While Anastasia was laughing, grandfather managed to seize her by the arm. He raised his switch and gave her a light spanking like a child. Anastasia squealed, trying to pretend it was painful. And in spite of the endless laughter she was trying so hard to restrain, grandfather put his arms around her shoulders and said, "All right, that's enough. Don't cry. You've learned your lesson. You've learned your lesson? You've got what was coming to you. You'll be more obedient in the future. Listen, I started training the eagle. It may be old, but it is still strong and remembers many things. And here she's insolently poking her nose into everything. Grandpakins, my dear sweet Grandpakins, the eagle, that means you already know about the baby? The star, don't forget." Anastasia didn't let her grandfather finish putting her arms around his waist. She lifted him off the ground and spun him around. When she returned him safely to the ground, grandfather staggered a bit and said, trying to appear strict, "So that's the way you treat your elders. You see what I mean? You're spoilt." And continuing to wave the switch, he hurried to catch up with his father. As he reached the trees at the edge of the glade, Anastasia called after him, "Thank you, Grandpakins, for the eagle. Thank you very much." Grandfather turned around and looked at her. "Only just be, my dear child. please remember to be more. His voice was too gentle. Breaking off his sentence, he added with a bit more severity, "Watch out, or else." And he disappeared into the forest. Thank you for joining me today. I think we might pull a couple of cards from the Banned Books Tarot just because I can. Hello, Bang Bang 17. 17? 17107. Gonna be decoding that all night now. Okay. Banned Books Tarot by, I don't actually know who made this one. It's one of those ones that's hard to find sometimes. Well, I'm sure you can find it on the interwebs if you'd like, if you're interested. This is probably reversed for y'all, right? But it says, there are two ways of seeing, with the body and with the soul. So Anastasia and her grandfathers were talking a lot about carnal desire and various things about the body recently. And that whole chapter is really funny out of context, but I think that it's very much just speaking to the way with which Anastasia's family puts the soul ahead of the body, and not to ignore it at all. They're very healthy and happy, and they take care of their bodies all day, every day, like it's their job because they don't have jobs. And they do very well with that, but it's coming from a different direction. It's coming with the foundation being at the soul, and knowing that when you connect with that part of yourself and you put spirit first, then the things that you achieve and create and benefit from and enjoy in the physical actually have like a spiritual, energetic foundation that allows them to sustain into the long term, into the future. But if we just go after the carnal, the physical, as the foundation, as the inspiration, then we often see with most people that we lose sight, we lose track, we lose, or we never had the codes to make that a long-term sustainable physical reality. And so if we want to create things in our world, in our lives that are of a physical nature, we have to understand that just running after those surface level things, we can achieve them sometimes, but we cannot achieve them in a meaningful, lasting way that gives us what we were seeking when we wanted it. Because the things that we want physically, we want them because of the energy, because of the feelings that they generate within us. So if you focus on understanding yourself, understanding the universe, understanding and connecting to those feelings, then anything that you generate in the physical world, like what was Anastasia talking about, the baby for the eagle, those things are going to be more lasting and positive and productive. And hello, Tarrant. Oh, I feel you. South Texas can be rough for that. I am not a Democrat, but I understand what it is like living in Austin, Texas, and not being a Democrat in Texas, which is pretty much the same experience as being a Democrat in South Texas. From my experience, you know what I get. I don't think you will get pew-pewed. I hope you do. I hope you are chilling. Yes. Oh man, you said hi. Does that mean that you were trying to do the passive aggressive thing? Or is everybody just given like auto response options and that's what they're doing? Might have a little leeway. Maybe the second time people say, I said hi. Oh, okay, good. I mean, there's I don't have any issues with Democrats or Republicans hanging out on my channel, but you just might get a little pissed off sometimes, that's all. Uh, we're not talking politics right now exactly, but part of the message today was speaking on the chapter from the Ringing Cedars of Russia series, book 2, that we've been reading. And this one does definitely touch on some things that one could consider political. That's kind of how Anastasia gets in trouble a lot, because she just upsets everybody. Um, but she's also talking to themes that affect everybody, with or without politics, whether they exist or not. The topics are still relevant. They're foundational. They're spiritual, and that's not really how the political landscape works. The political landscape works in that way, where it has physical aims that it seeks to generate, and it takes a very physical, carnal approach to making those things happen. And then everybody gets upset because they're like, well, this didn't create the results that I was looking for. Um, and so that's very much the same. If you are creating the foundation from a, like, I don't know, like reptilian, animalistic space, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But, you're going to be regenerated faster, just like all of the other animals that don't have the whole prefrontal cortex and the whole whatever weirdness we've got going on in here. Ancient indeed. Oh, what kind of school? We read all the time here, but actually you're safe. We already finished that 7-page chapter. It was pretty quick. So I'm going to pull a couple of cards from the banned books tarot deck and see if there's any additional messages here for y'all today. Public. Oh, how do you feel about that? Yes, public school does suck, in my opinion. That's a pretty political thing to say, and pretty related to what we were just reading, honestly. I'm going to give you a little spoiler. If you don't want it, cover your ears. But that whole chapter was kind of setting up, I think, the next one, about how when Anastasia has her son, I think was the first kid that she had, um, she she does this family tradition where somebody trains an eagle for you, and then you take the eagle, and the eagle takes your baby up into the sky so that they can see the earth from a perspective that they've never experienced before, and to have like an animal that you have a relationship with, that you trust enough to take your baby hundreds of feet up into the air. um, and I would say that that is the kind of education that they like to talk about, and that I think creates the foundation for more academic studies to be really like impactful and meaningful for people later on. But if you just go straight into it, we see what happens with throwing kids into public schools after having no relationship with themselves or God or their parents or like anything that they're meant to. And then just attaching real hard to their teachers and their peers in this environment that's like a prison, and all the information and all the education is like distorted and disconnected from the meaning and the purpose behind it. And no wonder we have a bunch of angry, angsty youths causing troubles. Probably not as much trouble as the older folks right now, in my opinion. I don't know. Yeah, you said that you're in America, right? You're in South Texas. I heard a rumor you ain't an American if you ain't been in a fight with an eagle. F yeah. Indeed. Uh, I love living in Texas, especially Austin. What a bunch of contradictions. It's quite entertaining, quite fun. I was just talking to somebody about Idiocracy the other day, and I was like, it's kind of uncomfortable watching now. It used to be funny. Now it's like, what? I didn't know Donald Trump was African American. Yeah. Okay, so Spirit, Holy Child, Holy Spirit, Holy Father, Holy Mother, Aaron Kirks Bradshaw, James Carlos James Carlos Ronder. Oh, something's sneaking in there for me. Aaron Kirks Bradshaw, James Carlos Ronder, Jerry Kirks, Clara Sands Pujol. Please allow me to channel for this collective gathered here today a quick message from this banned book's tarot deck. Nine of Paper, Coraline, Neil Gaiman. That's fun. You may or may not have read the book or seen the movie. Is there a couple now? Can't remember. But I'm gonna pull from the guidebook to read about this because not only can I not remember which suit paper is, there's also just like a lot of interesting differences in this one. So let's go to the paper section, which is Pentacles. It's on page 62. If that number happens to be relevant for some of y'all, take that or leave that as you wish. Here it says in the Pentacles suit, the paper suit, the suit of paper, traditionally Pentacles, represents material things, money, and health, as well as the element of earth. It carries a grounding, feminine energy and calls you to focus on intentional growth. This sign's court cards can characterize the earth signs of the zodiac, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So there may be some confirmation in there for some of y'all, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorns, or if you're dealing with some people, situations, even sometimes you can look at like the birth chart of nations and communities and stuff and read the astrology of that collective, you know? Oh, thank you for being the 100th subscriber. Lovely. You did just say said hi twice after I told you I was gonna block you after that, but you may be new and not know what I'm talking about, so I'm gonna get a little grace there because you're funny. Um, oh, okay. I will scroll up. Did I say Charlie Kirk? I did not. Wait, what? Oh, summoning demons. I get it now. No, I just didn't have my Palo Santo or my singing bowl easily accessible to me. The snapping's more of an energy clearing kind of thing. But we do summon demons here, so if that's a problem, you might want to go away. I believe very much, kind of like the old school Jewish faith, that there are many powers and many spirits, and they all have the potential to influence us. In that tradition, the belief is to kind of deny most of these influences and put all of our focus and our attention onto the one that we're tight with, you know? And I believe the one that we're tight with isn't exactly a demon at all, but is the Christ point, is the one true God. I am not a polytheist or a monotheist. Um, I don't know if I even need words. I believe that every demon is an emanation from the Christ point with certain like shadows within it in different orientations, and they're all important and they're all here for us to learn from, through distortion and through that impurity, so that we can find the purity. So there's nothing wrong with any aspect of the world. There's just something wrong with us if we continue to avoid those lessons and avoid integrating those things. And it's not even that there's something wrong with us, it's just that we're going to keep experiencing consequences if we do that. You know what I mean? Indeed. Safe space. No hatred. Free of speech. Wait, what? I wouldn't call myself a Christian. I know a lot of people that feel like they're like, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Christ follower. And I don't know how I feel about that whole vibe exactly. Um, but yeah, I love Jesus. And I think that there's a lot of things about the Bible and from the Bible and in the Bible that can be useful to learn from. I think the Bible's full of demonic influences, and I think that that's why it's so confusing and divisive. Um, but again, not in a bad way necessarily. It's just a very intense, triggering thing that helps us learn from, you know? Yeah. So the nine of paper would be the nine of pentacles. The nine of pentacles is almost the 10 of pentacles. The nine of pentacles, I think, is usually that woman in the garden. She's very self-sufficient. She's like an entrepreneur or something. She's got all her ducks in a row. Um, she's a strong, independent lady. And 10 of Pentacles, one step above that, is like legacy, family, home. And so she's basically got that, except without the community aspect. Um, but it's not even like she needs that. It's not like she's looking for a counterpart or a child or a community. She's a full person unto herself, but she just has that one extra step available to her if it happens to be part of her path, whatever. Um, enjoy your spamming. Yes, please. I love it. All right. So we're going to go to the very end here and read on the Coraline entry. This book was published in 2002. That seems way too recent. My goodness. I guess I remember being a child and it being kind of like a new thing going on. And in this deck, it says, with a triumphant energy, the nine of paper represents a happy ending after a period of growth. Like Coraline and her family, you are finally able to sit back and enjoy the blossoms of the seeds you planted. Challenged for its darker themes, Coraline offers delightfully imaginative lessons in appreciating what you have and using your wits and courage to stand up for yourself and others. Yeah, so it's the long route to go foundation first, to choose soul and spirit first, to not rush ahead and try and just make something happen that we want to see happen in the physical. It doesn't last if we rush. It doesn't last if we're unaligned. We don't get to that point where we get to enjoy the fruits of our labor. We labor, we achieve, and then immediately any satisfaction disappears because it's about achieving that feeling, right? So the Nine of Pentacles doesn't have everything physically. She doesn't have the whole home, the whole legacy, the whole estate. But she's taking her time. She's putting her foundation under herself, right? Putting that at the forefront. It may be challenging or annoying to spend a bunch of time training an eagle to the point where you trust it to take your newborn child up into the sky and not drop it or scratch it or eat it or something. But they do it because they know that the results that they want can only be achieved through choosing the hard thing and taking the long road. So I think if this message is for you today, It's just a reminder that if you're still in the process, if you're still in the struggle, but you're aligned and you're choosing to do things from that place in that way instead of rushing to the end result and being overly focused on the physical manifestations and achievements of things, then you're going to find yourself not only in a space of great material stability, but also in a place of great spiritual self-sufficiency, where you don't need anybody or anything, yet you're still open to it. I feel like there's a lot more I could say on that, but I'm real hungry and I should go eat dinner, honestly. Yeah. I'm gonna show you this though. On the bottom of the deck, we have The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Schwatsky, Page of Inkwells, which would be Page of Cups. It's a very sweet message. Follow your intuition. Be open to messages from spirit through your intuition. Be open to love through your heart, through the avenue of your connection with spirit. So move physically in alignment with spirit and find your emotional balance and fulfillment and connection through spirit. Spirit at the foundation, spirit at the center. And you will achieve and you will conquer and you will generate. And you won't be attached to it even. So it'll lose its power over you. Yet you still have power over the dream and the creation. And you can make things happen. And we need more people like that in the world. But you can't make it happen by running off trying to become that person in the world. You just have to slow down and become that person for yourself. And that can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So I'll leave that to each of y'all. And maybe we'll get into some new messages tomorrow that will further clarify. Feel free to go through the catalog of all the hundreds of videos that we've put together, reaching this, I believe, 100 subscriber goal. If Tarrant is being accurate there, we go up and down, so may or may not be by the time I leave. But thank you for the likes. Thank you for all the engagement. Thank you for sitting here with me with the reading. That's a really fun one, and I'm looking forward to getting into the next chapter there. Book 2 is a little bit slow and dense and heavy, and but it's really foundational to like setting up the rest of the series. And so thank you for being here. If that's something that you're interested in, if that's something that you're called to. I'm gonna go get my dinner. 44 minutes on the clock, 44:08. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. Let's do some snaps just for Tarrant. Can everybody do some snaps for Tarrant? Can you do some snaps in the chat for Tarrant? Oh wait, we got more. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes. Snap the demons away. 44:40 on the clock. 44:44 on the clock. Okay, I love y'all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.